Mr. Deltel, when you say that you fear that there'll be too much power invested in the minister, do you fear that the regulator will say yes and the minister will say no to projects? Well, that's the real issue. You know, if you have an agreement, if you have the go ahead that's been given, if you have scientific evidence, the minister will have the power really to run roughshod over that. So the government continues to boast that everything's based on science, consultation is a transparent process, but the minister has discretionary power over some projects. So she could say no, even if scientists say yes. So you believe that the government might say no more often than it says yes. Well, you can't predict what the government will do, but I'd like to point out that one project has already bitten the dust, the Energy East project. Why? Because the government changed the rules in midstream. And the worst thing for an investor or for someone who wants to develop a project is uncertainty, and especially discretionary power. So if the government states that it wants fact and science-based process, and if the minister has discretionary power, and if the minister can even cover up specific information that don't suit her, that's not what we expected. What about Northern Gateway Trans Mountain? The minister also had to give her approval for that, and that was under the former system, your system. Well, my system, to my knowledge, didn't cover up information as this new system can. I'd like to point out a few things here. The opposition parties weren't invited to the technical briefing, and we had to wait till later to get a comprehensive briefing. I'd like to point this out because this government claims to be transparent and want to cooperate with the opposition. It's completely opposite what they did today, so there are concerns on this, and we're very concerned about that.
What exactly is the concern with the influence of the minister here, and is there really a difference between what was in place previously in terms of the minister's discretion?
Actually, we're still doing a deep dive into the proposed legislation. It appears that the minister has actually provided for herself and for the government even greater discretion in terms of extending and suspending timelines. When you actually read the legislation, the word suspend and extend comes back page after page after page. So they claim that there is actually some more certainty injected into the legislation, but in fact it's quite the opposite because there's more discretionary powers given to the minister. And the other thing is that, of course, the minister has a right to basically kill a project before it ever gets to the environmental assessment process, the impact assessment process. So we would have serious concerns that on the face of the legislation, when you look at it, you think, well, maybe this is an improvement, but when you look at all of the discretionary powers given to the minister, it's actually a big, big step backwards.
And so are you saying that this early engagement phase, should that be done away with entirely?
No. No, in fact, companies have been engaging and consulting before the process starts. The industry has been doing that because it's in the industry's interest to do that. But now there is a process that's been established statutorily, which in fact sets a timeline with broad discretion for the minister to continue to extend that timeline and allows the minister of her own volition to simply can the project, to kill the project. And that can be done for political purposes. And we believe that is not healthy. We believe that projects like this are entitled to go through an environment assessment that is science-based. And our fear is that there will be projects that are of national interest, that should be approved, that will never get a chance to prove their merit.